Hey everyone! Alright, week 5. Oh my gosh, I can't believe how fast this is going. A couple things to talk about today. Not too much, but I do want to talk about a few important things, mostly from the reading that you had from last week. I want to kind of touch on a few things. A couple of those concepts or ideas that'll be really important for paper 2. So I'll talk about those in just a minute, but let's review what we have going on this week. Don't forget to get your paper 2 topic proposal into me. There's a discussion board for that. If you have emailed me, and that's okay too. But for those of you who haven't posted your topics yet, make sure you do that. Hopefully today, if you could. And like I said, I'll approve all topics as long as it's not going to cause harm to you. So that's something to keep in mind. Make sure you do that. I have a little more reading from our textbook. Some questions to answer at the end of that. All discussion board stuff, all in the modules. So hopefully you'll be following right along with that. Everyone's doing really well so far, so I'm really excited about that. But then also, I will be catching up on grading today and tomorrow. All the grades have been posted for paper 1. I still have a couple things to post from last week, some of the work that you've been doing. So I got a little bit behind because I wanted to get paper 1 back to you within a week. But now I want to make sure I finish up the other grading for like the bookwork and stuff like that that you had throughout the week. So I'll be posting those. So grades will be updated very soon. Any comments that I left on paper 1 were either as little comments within your Storify. Usually those were grammatical things because I wanted to make different or more specific comments as a comment within Canvas. So there might be 2 different places where you'll find comments. I didn't leave comments in both places for everybody. Some people I did. So don't think like you're like, I'm looking for comments in my Storify and there aren't any. That's okay. There might not be. I just want to give you a heads up that you could have 2 different locations for those comments. Also, I've been really impressed with reading the feedback that you've been giving each other about doing the peer review and stuff like that. Those are really great letters that you're writing to each other. So those are good to read, and I'm really enjoying the interaction that you're doing with each other. So that's nice. All right, let's see. Couple things I want to make sure. Oh, like I said, I was going to talk about some of the concepts and the theories and stuff from this week's reading. So I'm going to go over all the different types of things that are in paper 2. Oh, eyebrow issues. Oh, as always. All right, foot in the door. Foot in the door is that technique where, let's say you go somewhere, and this is thinking about like a door-to-door salesman. So I'll just use that example. So let's say, it's old school. Somebody is, selling stuff door to door. They come knocking on your door, and getting that person to open your door is like, that's it. Now I can sell you something. So the second you walk in, that's the moment where it's like, okay, we have this customer. We're not going to let them go. Getting that foot in the door is a big step. So you're thinking, all right, so now I've already got my foot in the door. I'm closer to the sale already. Okay? So that's part of the first one. Door in the face, it's kind of the opposite. So let's say someone comes knocking on your door, you're like, oh, no, I don't want to deal with this. No, I'm not going to buy what you're selling. So you are kind of slamming the door in their face, and they're like, wait. What if I said you could get 20% off whatever I'm trying to sell? And then you think, well, all right, if it's 20% off, I'll consider it. And then you let them in, and you go through the whole sales spiel and stuff like that. So those are the difference. Foot in the door is really that whole entrance point where it's like, okay, now that I'm already here, the sale's going to happen. Door in the face is thinking, okay, well, they might not buy something, so what can I do to get them to buy something? I'm going to reduce the cost. I'm going to offer them something else. Anything else, if I'm going to get this door slammed in my face, I'm going to do whatever I can to appease that customer. So those are the difference between those first 2. That's not all. We've seen this one a million times, and I think I mentioned this in my video last week. This is on all sorts of commercials and everything else. Well, wait, there's more. We're not going to only give you free shipping, but we're going to double the offer and give you twice as much crap that you don't need. But wait, there's even more, because we will give you another special surprise that you'll get if you order in the next 10 minutes. So they keep piling on all this stuff. So we see that in basically every infomercial out there. That one's a pretty easy one to spot. But that happens not only on TV, but also when you go into the stores, they say, well, hey, guess what? Not only are you getting a great deal on this couch, but you're also going to get, free delivery or haul away of your old stuff. Great. So little extras that they throw on there. Slowly escalating commitments. I think the best way to think about this one is eBay. When you have two people going back and forth in a bidding war, basically, that's what slowly escalating commitments. So you think, okay, I'm not going to spend more than $10 on this thing. Someone comes in and outbids you, and they're like $10.50. You're like, all right, I can spend $11. So you go up there. Someone outbids you again, and you're like, well, I was going, but do this. Well, okay, I think I can spend $12. So you kind of keep inching up, even though you only thought that you were going to spend $10. Somebody keeps outbidding you, and you escalate a little bit more each time. So I like to think about eBay and bidding wars for slowly escalating commitments. The illusion of choice. This one's a really interesting one, and a few of you have actually, some of your topics that you've sent me have already pointed this one out, where someone will say, hey, look, we've got these two, again, I'm going to use couches. We have two couches. Look at this one over here. It's $400, and this one is $600. They're both great couches. This is, $200. It's a lot of money, but not too much. What they neglect to tell you is that there's also another couch that's in the clearance center for $200. These are really just random prices. They neglect to tell you that there's another one that's cheaper. And so that's the illusion of choice. You only think you have these two options, the $400 and the $600 couch, but in fact, the salesperson neglects to tell you that there's another option. There's a $200 couch. Maybe there's a $350 couch. Maybe there are a ton of $400 couches, but they're only showing you this specific one. So it's the neglect to tell you about other options is what we're thinking about when we think about illusion of choice. Conformity and social proof. We see this one everywhere, and this one reminds me of the appeal to authority, the fallacy that we had last week, or for our last paper, excuse me. We see people, like, look, I'm like, it's weird because I'm looking at the camera and it's backwards, so I'm like, where is my Nike swoosh here? So you see people, wearing certain brands, or you see athletes or, movie stars, endorsing things, and you're like, wow, that must be great. Or everybody wears that. That must be really cool. Or people act in a certain way if they wear that, or drink that certain pop or whatever. So there's some sort of social proof that it's like, well, if they're doing it, it must be great. Another thing that you might think about in this way is that, like, those moments when you go into the library or you go into certain places and you realize, oh, everybody's acting a certain way, I have to follow along. That's kind of what we think of when we think of social proof. So if you go into the library and you're like, oh, everyone's whispering, people are reading, people are studying, I'm not going to go in there, sit there and, like, yak on my phone really loudly. No, I'm going to, follow what everybody else is doing. So I'm going to follow some sort of social code. That's what this one's telling you, too. It's like, oh, well, if I see other people, drinking a ton of Starbucks, maybe I'll save up and get Starbucks once a week or whatever. Because I'm really cheap and I drink as cheap coffee as possible. So I don't get Starbucks that often. Side note, whatever. Anyway, all right, so conveying illusions of authority, honesty, and likability. A lot of times when we go into sales situations, sometimes we leave and we're like, I don't know, I just didn't like that. I don't know, it seemed kind of sleazy or something. It's just like, I don't know, it's like something about that salesperson just rubbed me the wrong way. I don't think I want to buy something because that person I don't know, something about them. That's what's going on there, that conveying illusions of authority, honesty, and likability. When you think that, like, I don't know, something's rubbing me the wrong way, that's when that's failing. So you want to always make sure that you are conveying illusions of authority, likability, and honesty, because if you don't, you're going to lose a sale. So, you might go somewhere and have a conversation with somebody, someone who's a really good salesperson might be like, hey, you know what, I've got the new iPhone 2, and, the case that you're looking at for the new one really isn't the best one. Here's a cheaper one that's probably a little bit better. I use it on my phone. It's cheaper. I should be selling you the more expensive one because it's, I get commission or whatever, but I like this one better, just to let you know. So that's something where they're saying, hey, you know what? I'm going to be honest with you. I'm going to convey that sense of like, hey, you can trust me. This is cheaper. I use it on my phone. It's going to be a little bit better for you. So they give you that security of feeling a little bit better about trusting them and making your purchasing decision. And then finally, base rate fallacy and the negativity bias. These are two actually separate ones. I'm not sure why I put them in the same bullet point. But the base rate fallacy is really the tendency to ignore generic info and focus on very specific information. So, for example, this is a very common example that's used when they try to explain this in terms of like philosophical, like logical examples with this one. So you think, okay, you see somebody, it's kind of like thinking about stereotyping, and I hate saying it that way, but this might be a way of thinking about it that makes it a little bit easier to comprehend. So let's say you see somebody, they're dressed like head to toe in black, and like eyeliner, like very, very goth. And you might think, oh my gosh, that person is like a Satanist. Whatever. You're like, maybe they're not. So that's like your stereotypical reaction to this person. But in fact, if you step back and think about, okay, well, wait a minute. How many people are... Again, this is like a philosophical understanding of what this means. Okay, if you think about the number of people who are religious in some way, you know, whatever religion, like let's just say that they are Christian in general. There are more, in number, there are more Christians than there are Satanists. So, just by looking at that person and assuming that person is a Satanist, you're going against the actual numbers of what's out there. So, percentage-wise, it's more likely that they are going to fall into the Christian category than they would into the Satanist category. But you're using stereotypes to place them in that situation. So that's the base rate fallacy. So it's a little bit different. It deals a little bit more with numbers and how we misinterpret them. And then finally, the negativity bias is when we recall unpleasant memories and we base our decisions on those as opposed to more pleasant ones. So something that people usually say, you know, if you have a bad experience at a restaurant, you're going to tell 10 people. But if you have a great one, you're only going to tell like a one or two. But you're going to go out of your way to tell people, like, I had a really, like, don't go there. It's terrible. Like, no, don't go there. Like, it's bad, really bad experience. I went once, then I decided to go again just to see another bad experience, not trying that place again. If you've had a great experience somewhere, you're not often going to go out of your way to tell people that you had a really great experience. So you're going to have this negative influence or negative bias about an experience somewhere. So that's the difference between negativity bias in terms of how we view something and what that does to our reasons that we go and buy into something, or that we go back and, you know, patronize something along those lines. So those are the different concepts and terms and stuff from last week that I really want you to get a hold of. Let me know if you have questions about those. Okay, so a couple more things. I had a lot of fun reading the weekly responses last week, because I was like, oh, what are you doing over the summer? So I wrote down a couple things after reading some of your responses, and I want to give a couple shout outs to people because I think this is fun. And I would do this in class normally, but since we're not actually in class, it's a little bit more tough to do this. So, Kyle, yep, he asked if I had read all the books in here. I've read parts of all of them, and about 75% of them completely. And the only reason for that is that grad school is brutal and a nightmare, and it will suck the life out of you. But it's worth it. That was a ringing endorsement to go to grad school, by the way. And I apologize for that. Grad school is a good time, but it is, man, is it tough. Carly, yes, it has been fun reading everyone's posts this summer. And like I said, it's like we're at a face-to-face class, but like we're having a quick conversation before class actually starts, so I like doing that. That's kind of fun. Ali, got a new puppy named Bailey, and of course you got to post pics. Oh, I don't know if I've ever shown you my pics in my photos. Hopefully I'll drop all my other photos. This is Barkley and Jerome, cutest dogs in the whole wide world. See, they're adorable. They're crazy, but they're adorable. Muhammad, yes, paper 2 is definitely structured, so I hope it'll be a little bit more of a help. So I think, you know, when we have different tasks to actually fulfill, that it helps writing paper. So hopefully that'll help you out. Dima, I'm the same way. When I was a student, I really enjoyed going to classes with theme, or something that got me putting a lesson into it. She was mentioning how it's really helpful to actually, instead of just like write a paper about like a theory or something, that actually going out and putting it into practice, like finding examples of the logical fallacies or putting ourselves into a persuasive situation, really helps out. So I'm glad that's really working out for you. And Marissa, you actually gave me the idea for this week's weekly response. you mentioned something about infomercials, and what I would like everybody to do for this weekly response is to discuss the craziest, funniest, oddest, or even the stupidest infomercial you've ever seen. And so this kind of goes along with what we're doing for paper 2. And if you can find a link to it, also just post it. Just tell me a little bit about it, why it sticks out in your memory, or if it's on TV currently, you're like, I hate this commercial. It's on all the time. This would be a fun weekly response. So try to find it. I want to hear about your examples of infomercials. Courtney, secret safe with us. Have to read her response to see what that means. And Natalie was going to, she's in section 91, was going to Mackinac. And I don't know if it was you went to Mackinac this past weekend or you're going this coming weekend. But anyway, she was looking for things to do. So if you have any ideas from Mackinac, go ahead and post it on her week 4 discussion post. Or even if you're not in section 91 and you just have some like really great places that you like in Mackinac, you can tell me and then I'll send them to her. And then finally, Christy is looking for book suggestions, kind of wrapping up the summer, a couple more book reads. Also, she's in section 91. But if you have any really great book suggestions, that's a fun one too. I'm always looking for reading as well. I'm trying to read everything, or reread stuff for class starting in the fall. So I just reread Fear and Loathing in Las Vegas, and it's hilarious. Not for everybody, but it's really funny. So I enjoyed reading that one very recently. Also, I'm not reading it right now, but I just started watching The Strain. Creepy. Like, my eye starts itching, and I'm like, great, I've got, like, eye worm. Disgusting. But it's really interesting, so I kind of want to go pick up those books from the library to read more about it. All right, well, that's our weekly update. I can't wait to see those infomercials that you're going to post. And also, paper 2 is due Sunday. Alrighty, so that's coming up really fast. Just like last time, if you want me to read your draft, I'm happy to do it at any stage of the draft. If you just have like a sentence or whatever, or some ideas, I'm happy to read your draft no matter what stage you're at. But just like last time, make sure you get them in by Friday, so I have time to read them and get them back to you before the due date. So drafts by Friday, and then final paper due Sunday. Alright, see everybody next week.